Now let's bring in senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen. John, jumping in here, 11 votes. The record is over 120. And at this point, the vote totals aren't getting closer to a winner. So vote shifted not toward Kevin McCarthy. What is your sense of his handle of the caucus right now, if there is one?
Well, let's just pray on behalf of the clerk of the House, Cheryl Johnson, that we don't get to 129 or 130 ballots before there's a Speaker of the House. Look, the Republican conference is riven right now over the simplest of questions, which is who should lead them, which means not only will they have trouble electing a speaker, but imagine as they try to do things like fund the government, lift a debt ceiling, hard, complicated, substantive things. You're looking at a party that is deeply divided and, in chaos. Often people talk about Democrats being in disarray and having a variety of views. And right now you're seeing the Republican Party in as bad a disarray as I've ever seen it.
And I think to that end, what concessions has Leader McCarthy made today alone, right? Because obviously he's needing to make some in order to get these votes that he's hoping for.
Yeah, he's starting to offer things like lowering the threshold for a motion to vacate the chair, meaning getting rid of the speaker down to one member that can make that motion. Of course, there'd still have to be a vote of the whole House, but whoever made that motion would probably get the vote of all the Democrats to get rid of Kevin McCarthy in the future. There's talk of adding some of the House Freedom Caucus members, the extreme conservatives, to the Rules Committee, which would make it easier for them to try to get amendments put in play on substantive issues as bills come to the floor, and a whole variety of other things that have been on the table. Last night, we already saw an agreement from McCarthy's super PAC, or the one that's aligned with him, to not go after or to not spend money in Republican primaries and safely Republican seats, which brought along the Club for Growth to be supportive, an outside group on the right to be supportive of McCarthy. But so far, this is not moving the votes in the chamber.
Right. And Jonathan, I have to tell you, as we've been speaking, the House has officially adjourned following 11 failed votes. And I know even as they've been discussing tonight, Trump's name was formally put into nomination. So can you talk to us about the Trump effect here? It seems everywhere in our midterms and now this. How is the former president playing into this?
I mean, really, the biggest effect is that he endorsed McCarthy, and it was worthless for McCarthy. On Wednesday morning, Trump came out with this very full-throated public endorsement on Truth Social. He had already been on the phone with some of these members, trying to get them to go in McCarthy's direction. Then there was a little bit of a hiccup when our colleague Garrett Hake called him, and Trump's response to his question about McCarthy was, "We'll see what happens." It was taken broadly as Trump backing off of McCarthy, so then he had to redouble his endorsement of McCarthy, and then nobody changed votes in favor of McCarthy. I talked to some of the members who were the holdouts. One of them, Ralph Norman from South Carolina, said he really appreciates what Trump did for the country, but he said, this is our fight.
Well, 11 failed votes later. We know you'll keep us posted on what's to come. NBC's John Allen, thank you so much.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.